Welcome to a special emergency edition of the All Cardinals podcast. For Richie, Bradshaw, I am Donnie, Druin. Go ahead, comment, like, subscribe on this video below for more Arizona Cardinals news, analysis, insight, and more. Then also head to allcardinals.com. Richie, we were actually planning on doing a podcast either tomorrow or Wednesday to kind of briefly recap the Rams win, and then just a flurry of news appeared today for the Arizona Cardinals. We're going to get through all of that here in the next however long it takes us to dissect and divulge everything. But before it's a week before the World Cup, supporting the US of A before the tournament even begins. How are you?
I am getting over a sickness, as many people know. Like, I've been very quiet on all my fronts. There's not a lot of Locked On Sun Devils that's been going on lately either. So, Donnie, I'm just happy to be talking into a mic again and not feeling like I'm about to pass out. I tried to do this last night and it didn't work. So this is my first podcast in a week. Brandon,
Hey,
what's up, man? Good to see you.
what's up, man? Thanks for joining us, Brandon. A lot of stuff to talk about, like we had already mentioned. First and foremost, what a time to cover the Arizona Cardinals, by the way. Just what a time. Never a dull moment with this team. After reporters had talked to Cliff Kingsbury, maybe 10 minutes after, maybe. Eno Benjamin is reported by Adam Schefter to be a surprise release from the team. And then not even 5 minutes after that, we get news that Zach Ertz suffered a season-ending knee injury. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Zach Ertz first. It was weird because he got hurt on the first drive, right? Got hurt on the 3rd and 4 play that kept the chains moving for Arizona. We saw Trey McBride after. He was ruled as questionable whenever he went to the locker room. He actually walked off on the field under his own power, went to the blue medical tent, and then took the cart to the locker room. He was ruled as questionable. He was never ruled out or like doubtful after that. At least I didn't hear anything in the press box. And then later on in the day, we hear that he's going to miss a couple weeks, but the team, and this is quoting Adam Schefter, by the way, the team does suspect that the ACL is intact. Obviously, good news for a Cardinals football team trying to turn their season around, trying to make the playoffs. That, surely Ertz is going to miss a couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there, but ultimately he would have returned to the team at some point. However, obviously we already touched on it today. Ertz, reported by NFL Media's Ian Rappaport, done for the year with a season-ending knee injury. No specifics were reported. It didn't directly say it was an ACL injury, and I'm wondering with the report that they believe the ACL is intact, if it was something else that would have popped up in the MRI. Regardless, I'm not a doctor. A very big blow for a Cardinals football team trying to find their footing. Just give me overall thoughts and opinions on it.
Dude, it's just when it rains, it pours. And it feels like two good things can't happen consecutively for the Arizona Cardinals right now, because they lose DeAndre Hopkins for suspension, but then they get Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown's playing really good, of course, for 6 games. And then what happens? He gets injured, but hey, DeAndre Hopkins is back. Offense hopefully is going to be at full force. You finally have the breakout emergence of Rondale Moore, and now Zach Ertz is gone. It's like we just are not going to see this Arizona Cardinals offense at its maximum potency in
That'd be too easy.
Yeah, it would be. And it's such a bummer because when you look at this offense, there are so many weapons for Kyler Murray to throw to, with DeAndre Hopkins, with Hollywood Brown, with Rondale Moore, with Zach Ertz. And we will have a whopping 0 games in 2022, with all of them on the field being like at their complete potential is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, Mike, 24 hours is just
that's way too much, Mike.
You're asking way too much.
Bring it down. But no, I agree. And I never even thought about we have never seen a Hollywood Hopkins Ertz trio on the field this entire season, and we won't see it, which is just an absolute disgrace considering how talented and the expectations a lot of people had for this team moving forward. We already have a couple comments in the chat about how Kyler is doing. Obviously, a very, very important piece to Arizona's puzzle, getting back in the hunt for the NFC West. Day to day, Cliff Kingsbury didn't give us anything on, Kyler's update, but also I'm pretty sure he knew about the status of Zach Ertz and Benjamin, which he kind of skated away from whenever somebody asked him why only played one snap yesterday. So even if he did know, Kingsbury and the Cardinals in general really like to keep things close to the chest. So I wouldn't expect to hear anything until like Wednesdays when they like officially have to start reporting. I guess accurate information might be the right word to put it. But circling back on Ertz, obviously a big blow for the team, but they did draft rookie tight end Trey McBride in the second round. There's been a lot of hype about him. He went into the game, played almost every snap virtually after Ertz's exit, caught one pass, I think, for 7 yards. I don't have huge expectations for McBride. I mean, he's still very, very young in his NFL career. But, I mean, I think a lot of the upside that we have seen from him is promising. I'm just wondering, how much does this impact the Cardinals offense, right? Because we talked to Colt McCoy after the game, and, excuse me, McCoy said a lot of the game plan was focused around Zach Ertz. And with him being gone now, that's kind of thrown out the window. So I'm really interested to see it. Talking's hard to them. Really interested to see how the Cardinals navigate life without Zach Ertz. And obviously, he's not the number one target. He's not a DeAndre Hopkins. He's not a Travis Kelce. But he was a bona fide security blanket for Kyler, for Colt, for whoever it might have been. And now it's gone.
Yeah, and you're really, really hoping that Trey McBride can live up to those lofty draft expectations that he had, not just for being a second-round pick, but this was not necessarily universally considered the best tight end in the draft, but this was one of the guys where people looked at Trey McBride and they were like, if you're looking for, and take this with a grain of salt kind of thing, if you're looking for this year's like Travis Kelce or like Mark Andrews, in the sense of like a tight end who's not going to go in the first round, but could be very, very good, Trey McBride is the guy. He's the one you want to take the gamble on. He's built like a Greek god. He's 6'4", 260.
Yep. He's a good looking dude too.
Man. He's not bad. He's all right.
Better than me.
Let's slow down there, Mr. Druin. We don't have enough time on this podcast to talk about how adorable you are, but also, we do have time to talk about.
Quick. Yes, really quick. We touched on this point a couple weeks ago. Where in the world is Robbie Anderson?
He was one of the guys I wanted to bring up, actually.
Richie, it's been 4 weeks, brother. Where's Robbie Anderson? Why did you trade for Robbie Anderson if you're not going to use Robbie Anderson?
Robbie Anderson is pretty much who we thought he was. It was a low risk and low, what's it called?
Low risk, high reward.
Yeah, kind of thing. And you didn't move a lot of investments to get him. So the expectations shouldn't have been high. But with that being said, he's done nothing. He has one catch this year, negative yards, at least one drop. I'm thinking
a crucial drop.
Yes, a massive drop across the middle. And yeah, it's been a very, very, very poor showing for Robbie Anderson. And this is a guy who was a 1,000-yard receiver at one point in his career and is more than capable of being a player. But I'm questioning Robbie Anderson more than I'm questioning the coaching staff getting him on the field, I guess. But yeah, it's been 4 weeks. If you're going to use him, then use him. It's a classic what's a PG way of saying it? Like go or get off the pot kind of thing.
No, for sure. I think you indirectly trade for Robbie to kind of help supplement the loss you had with Marquise Brown, and Robbie Anderson does not come close to touching that. I don't think anybody expected him to, but for him to come here, and like granted, we touched on this weeks ago, for him to come here in the middle of the season and try to learn the playbook and try to get integrated, try to build, a rapport, a chemistry with everybody, super difficult, super challenging.
The week they had a Thursday night football game.
Yep. So I commend his efforts, and I think it's like a 50-50 thing between him and just the coaches not really either A, being able to acclimate him properly, or B, not at least putting together packages to where he knows what to do.
Mhm.
But dude, all in all, like, what's bad whenever the Cardinals bench you for AJ Green? The Cardinals do not like AJ Green.
No.
And AJ Green goes out and has a pretty decent game. I mean, he
AJ
makes a
Green
crucial.
is a urban legend this year.
Dude,
Like,
he
we hear the name.
last week he reminded everybody exactly what he was capable of, and probably
Mhm.
even the Cardinals too. Now that he got that opportunity, and so time will tell with him. Time will tell with Robbie Anderson. But I mean, like short term, what a waste! What a waste! And that's no shot at him. That's no shot at the people who said go out and get Robbie Anderson. But I mean, like hindsight being what it is, what a waste.
Well, just wait, because I'm sure that pick is gonna end up being the next Tom Brady.
Oh,
Just
you watch.
knowing somehow, some way, we're gonna look back and we're gonna be like, and the Cardinals traded for Robbie Anderson. Could
Nope,
you
nope. Big
imagine?
waste
This
indeed. The
this state would just be engulfed in flame. I'm not
chat going
speaking that into
crazy on
existence,
Robbie
though.
Anderson, probably rightfully so.
I was
Rondell
gonna
Moore,
say,
though. Rondell Moore. The Cardinals finally figured out that Rondell Moore can run routes just like any other receiver that was drafted alongside with him. And look what happens. Look what happens. We kind of harped on this last week, how Moore is a good receiver, but he shouldn't be getting double the targets that DeAndre Hopkins had. But in an offense that featured Colt McCoy, both of them were able to eat this week. And what a beautiful catch and throw on that fourth down, deep down the left sideline to Rondell Moore to extend the Cardinals drive and then eventually punch it in the end zone 2 plays later, excuse me.
wow, it took him 2 days.
Two whole days. 2 whole days.
days.
It's a long drive, man. It's a long drive from LA to
A long
Arizona.
drive.
But
It's a journey, okay? Dude, it was 4th and 3. You didn't need to do that, but they were like, we're gonna. And they
But
did.
no,
And we
like
were
if
like,
if you
okay.
see a speedy receiver like Rondell Moore in man coverage on the outside,
Oh, you take that
that's what
shot.
you do. Yeah.
He's what, a 4.32 runner or something like that?
There's something
It's
way crazy.
yeah, it's insane. I think people forget how fast Rondell Moore is because the
They
Cardinals
forget
don't
because
allow him to
thank
be
you.
fast.
Thank you.
Yeah, they don't
100%.
let him be that way. He's Tyreek Hill's speed, but they don't want him to use that Tyreek Hill speed.
Dude, he showed, like, for example, the catch against the Vikings last year on the sideline. Dude, he showed he can make plays deep down the field. And I think slowly but surely, granted, due to injuries and suspensions, the Cardinals have had to kind of figure it out. Hey, Rondell Moore is more than capable of doing things outside of running jet sweeps and catching screen passes 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
Right.
But bringing the conversation back to Zach Ertz, done for the season. Trey McBride expected to step into that starting role. I already kind of touched on this. I don't feel on any crazy strong feelings on either side of the pendulum and where it swings. I don't think McBride's going to be this phenomenal all-star tight end. I also don't think he's going to be a disappointment. I really am walking into the second half of the year with McBride as a starting tight end is kind of open, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, like we had started to talk about with Trey McBride, is you're really hoping that he can become this prospect that he went through the draft process as, is this big, tall, strong, fast, talented tight end. And if he can be that for you, then you might have a better option than what you had with Zach Ertz. But Trey McBride is a lot of projection, and there hasn't been a lot of results for what you've seen this year. Now, granted, he has 4 targets this year, so it's not like, and 3 of them came against Carolina. So we haven't had a lot of opportunity to see what Trey McBride can do in the passing game yet. But hopefully, that is so weird. Hopefully they give him more plays is literally almost verbatim what I was about to say. What was that last one, Brandon? This is why they need to stop throwing screens. Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Stretch the field with Rondell. But they need to figure out what they have, because Steven Anderson is not it. That dude dropped a wide open pass and smiled about it.
See, I don't really have a problem with guys smiling about it because like they know they messed up, but I
I'm
mean
just
it's
kind
different
of,
people react differently. But I get it.
I
Like
would have done the
it's not a
same.
good look. No, it's not a good look because I mean, like remember whenever Jaden Daniels would throw a pick at AFC and he would like smile on his way to the sideline. That got everybody and their mother riled up, and probably
Oh,
rightfully
yeah.
so.
Hmm.
Rightfully so. My thing with Trey McBride is that I don't think the Cardinals were planning on utilizing him as a tight end one this year because let's be real, that pick they took on him in the 2022 draft was very much a luxury pick. They had glaring needs across the depth chart, but chose to take this toy, I guess that like
Yeah.
Kime and like Kingsbury described him as, to kind of build himself into a top tier tight end a couple years down the road. They were not banking on Trey McBride to step into the role of tight end one immediately in Arizona. But I guess it's his opportunity. It's his time to show and kind of prove everybody wrong. I guess might be the right word. Even though I don't feel like there's anybody rooting against him.
No, definitely not. But you've done this before, Donnie. You really hope that Trey McBride ends up being the next Travis Kelce and he doesn't end up being the next Troy Nicholas, because the Cardinals have gotten cute with drafting the athletic projection tight ends before, and
Yep.
it has come to bite them in the butt. And just looking at some of the guys that they could have had, there's pass rushers that they passed on, like what's his name? I just saw him, Drake Jackson, who's with the Niners. I'm just looking off the top of the list here. Abraham Lucas, a tackle for Seattle, has started every game this year. There are players that could have been immediate impact that I'm looking at right now that they decided to pass on. So they really need him to step up because, like you said, the luxury pick of a tight end was maybe a little egregious for the Cardinals.
Oh, completely agree. And then moving on, the other piece of news today, and probably half of why we had the emergency podcast. And really quick, Eno Benjamin, former Arizona State running back. Eno Benjamin has everybody in the Arizona Cardinals fan base's hearts released today in a surprise/shocking move from the organization. Nobody really knows why. There's been no inside reports. Kind of leaves you up to two options, right? Either one, something happened. Something we don't know that is going to come out happened. We just don't know exactly what that is yet. Because for that move to come on a Monday, following a week where he played only one snap, where Keontae Ingram played 4 more snaps than he did, we've seen Eno be very effective at times this season. I mean, he mans kickoff return duties. He does have a role within this team. Granted, not large when James Conner's in the picture, but he does have a role regardless. Either something happened off the field with Benjamin that we don't know about yet, or I think he was just a victim to a numbers game. There's plenty of injuries that the Cardinals are going through. They need bodies. They need bodies now. And you look at the Cardinals running back room, you have James Conner, Eno Benjamin, Keontae Ingram, Darrell Williams. You have Corey Clement on the practice squad. They probably feel like they have enough running backs. Could you argue that Eno should be one of the 2 or 3 running backs on the roster? Absolutely. But I don't know. Just an overall strange day from the Cardinals. And to be honest, I don't know what to think of this move.
I'll just start off with this. I'm frustrated that the one thing people seem to immediately go to is he must have gotten in trouble. What indication in Eno Benjamin's career has he ever given us to be like, oh, the Cardinals cut him? He's probably like going to jail. He probably got arrested or something. That's such a character call, and I don't care for that.
No, for
It
sure. And
is.
like to be really clear, whenever I say something happened off the field, like I'm not saying like he went
I'm
and
not
like did something.
going at you.
No, no,
I'm
no,
not
no, for
going at you.
sure. But I think that's what's so surprising is that like there has to be some sort of reason behind it. And like you already touched on, coming out of the draft, his intangibles were one of the best things about him as a prospect. So for him to be kind of just cut like that.
Well, and that's the next thing I was going to touch on is I think it's what you said it is. It's a numbers thing. The Cardinals have James Conner seemingly at full health. They're going to want to get their money's worth. And getting their money's worth means giving him 90% of the touches. So they don't need all these running backs. And they've got a lot of running backs, right? We were just talking about Keontae Ingram. He's younger. He's probably a little bit cheaper since he's on his first year of his rookie deal compared to Eno was on his third. Now, how that all works with like where they were drafted and whatnot, don't know, but I'm not touching that. The point is, Eno was always not a lock for this team. We didn't know if he was going to be a lock for this team entering the season. And he worked his you-know-what off, and he has played very well this year. But that's just part of the business of the NFL, guys, is there is no loyalty. There is no, we owe you this, nothing. It's just at the drop of a hat, your NFL career with a team could be done for no reason. And my assumption is that's probably it, is the Cardinals just lost a tight end, a starting tight end, a very good tight end. They're going to need to have to do some replacing. And with James Conner probably at full health and likely to get 80 to 90% of the team's workload at the running back position, it's just a numbers thing. They don't need Eno, and they need other positions. I don't think it's a character thing, and I certainly hope it's not. But
no, for sure. I don't think anybody does.
It's just the way the business is sometimes. I think that's what people need to accept, is sometimes these things just happen.
I think you hit it right on the head. The NFL sometimes can rear its ugly head and very much remind you that at the end of the day, it is a business. You know, people are coaching and people are playing for their jobs. And unfortunately, you see talented guys get cut and released. Not all the time, but I feel like on like a somewhat frequent occasion where you see a name hit free agency or the waiver wire, like, wow, like how did he fall out of that team's 53? It's just absolutely crazy. But Cardinals feel like they know what they're doing. So obviously they are confident in their full roster and the running back stable moving forward. I do like the point that you brought up about James Conner and them kind of, elevating James to get the most bang out of their buck. Cliff Kingsbury talked about that today and said that they just felt like James for the first time all season was fully healthy, and they wanted to give him the workload. And you saw that he played, I think, close to 90% of the snaps. And granted, his yards per carry wasn't very good, but he did find the end zone twice in the game, which we'll talk about here in a second. But looks like it's James Conner time. It's James Conner time in Arizona. And unfortunately, I think, is either the opposite of a beneficiary for that, or, like we already talked about, just a numbers game for the rest of the roster.
These things happen, guys. Like, it doesn't need to be some extreme. Sometimes guys just get cut, and that's more than likely what happened.
See, because ESPN's Josh Weinfuss reported that Eno was surprised he was cut, which tells me he didn't do anything. Exactly. If he is surprised, he is cut. He's either playing the biggest game of dummy I've ever seen, or he's genuinely shocked that he got cut. So, I mean, not trying to read too much into the tea leaves, but take it for what it's worth. I don't think anything off the field happened. Like, we've already kind of established that, his track record going back to ASU was phenomenal. He's a really good dude. Everybody loves to cheer for him, and for a good reason. He shows it. Right. He shows it whenever he interacts with people. He shows it on the field. He's a very likable person. So who knows? Maybe he clears waivers. Maybe he ends up back with the team somehow. But for now, Benjamin no longer an Arizona Cardinal. Moving on. Richie, Cardinals needed the win. 2 weeks ago, heading into this 3-game stretch against the NFC West, we sat here on this podcast and said the Cardinals need to go at minimum 2-1 in the next 3 weeks for them to keep themselves alive and well in the hunt for the postseason. They lost against Seattle. We're like, okay, do or die. Put up or shove out time. They went out and they get a 27-17 road victory over the Los Angeles Rams. Injuries everywhere, bad football played everywhere, despite the amount of star-studded lineups on both squads. I first and foremost, do you have any general takeaways from the game? I mean, we're going to talk about Colt McCoy here in a little bit, but I mean, for the offensive line missing 4 or 5 starters, for a backup quarterback, for their starting tight end to get hurt on the first drive of the game, I feel like all things considered, they did pretty well.
Yeah, where's this team been all year with more talent? Like, these guys stepped up. Do you just need us to scream in your face, you suck, you're going to lose this game, for you to be like, hey, we don't suck, we're going to win, and then win? Like, where's this mentality been all year? Where is everybody else with JJ Watt and Zach Allen that are just working their what's off? Buda Baker had no business playing in this game and is just making plays. Like, the rest of the guys stepped up with the playmakers like JJ, like Zach, like Byron, or not Byron. Byron was out. Excuse me. Buda. You need this every week. Why did it have to come down to a completely depleted game? And I don't buy that it's also because the Rams are injured too, because the Rams still had Aaron Donald on the field and he only had 1 quarterback hit in the game. Like, we've said it before. This is a talented Cardinals team. They're better than their record. So this is what we know you're capable of. Start doing this.
Mm-hmm. Nope. Start doing this indeed. I like the point you brought up of how it wasn't necessarily the stars of the team that rose to the occasion, because you saw guys like AJ Green, like that incredible touchdown catch in the corner of the end zone. You saw Antonio Hamilton pace the team with 11 tackles, 2 passes defense with Byron Murphy Jr. out. You saw 4 backup offensive linemen, hold themselves together against probably the greatest defensive player we have seen in our time in Aaron Donald, to 1 quarterback hit. He was largely ineffective for a lot of the day, at least rushing the passer. Granted, a lot of double and triple teams, but it's kind of what you get whenever you face Aaron Donald at least twice a year. People stepped up. And for a long time, we harped on this team for, guys not executing, guys not making plays. The talent is there, like we've said over and over again. And it finally came to fruition. And to your point, yeah, the Rams are dealing with injuries. So is the rest of the NFL. Are they as bad as the Cardinals and the Rams? And, in terms of the injury report? No. But at the end of the day, that is why building a thorough 53-man roster is so important, because there are going to be times like this where you need guys to step up. And on Sunday, the Cardinals finally saw all of that come to revelation.
Nailed it. And one of the things that makes a good team great is that next man up philosophy. And the Cardinals embraced it this week, but no more so than Colt McCoy, who, Donnie, is it fair to say he's becoming a fan favorite at this point?
I think he was a fan favorite last year whenever he stepped in for those 3 games and just balled out.
Chat, is Colt McCoy one of your favorite Cardinals? Now, while you guys type that out, I want to credit the chat, because since we got on, Donnie, everyone has been resounding that they want Kyler to play, which is not what some other people are saying. Some people are saying you need to start Colt McCoy for the rest of the year. Friend of the podcast, Connor Drios, stopped by my house last night and was he had run the Canes and was listening to 98.7. And what do after all the games? They bring everyone on to talk about their instant reactions and everything. And one of the first fans was like, yeah, they need to stick with Colt McCoy moving forward. Colt McCoy is the answer. He's going to win you football games and blah, 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 blah. That's not it. But yeah, props to chat for knowing that Kyler's still the guy. But on the topic of Colt McCoy, man, he played some dang good football. Like, dude was accurate, poised, confident. He did everything he needed him to do.
Colt McCoy, 26 of 37 for 238 yards, 1 touchdown to 0 interceptions, sacked twice, had an overall passer rating of 96.5. And I think going back to the comment I had earlier, people saw him and how he played last year, and there were the same calls last year for Colt McCoy to be the guy to rest it away and how the offense looks so different. Really quick sidebar. I was really critical of Cliff Kingsbury coming into this game, and I wrote this column probably an hour before kickoff of how if Cliff Kingsbury is really this great offensive guru, now's the time to prove it. Because how great can you be when everything's stacked up against you? And without Kyler Murray, the play calling and their decision making is going to be amplified times 100 because you don't have Kyler Murray to bail you out now. I thought the game plan with Colt McCoy was very, very good. I thought Colt McCoy played excellent. He made some really nice passes, Richie.
Yes, he did. Like that Rondale Moore pass.
Threaded some balls. Yep, he threaded that. The ball to AJ Green in the back of the end zone.
Beautiful.
There's a play where I think it was either to like Hopkins or like Rondale Moore where he like put it in this window over the middle of the field with like 3 defenders around him. He looked good. For a backup quarterback, you never really know when your time is going to be called. His first taste of meaningful action all season, and he goes out and he plays like that. Big props to him. Big credit to him.
Absolutely.
But
get a Colt McCoy jersey.
But
I'll
tell you this. If Colt McCoy starts on Sunday and he beats the 49ers in Mexico City, I will buy a autographed Colt McCoy jersey and we will give it away on this podcast.
Ooh, all right.
If that happens. If it happens. I don't know if Kyler's going to play. I don't know what the situation is at quarterback right now. We won't know that until a bit later in the week. If Colt McCoy plays and the Cardinals win in Mexico City on Monday Night Football, I will buy an autographed Colt McCoy jersey and I'll give it away right here. So, back on subject though. Greg Moore from the Arizona Republic, who, by the way, respect him a lot. Really, really good dude. Do you remember whenever Cliff was asked why he doesn't use his receivers better? And then Cliff got really snarky.
Yes.
And he kind of went back and forth. That's him. That's Greg Moore. Greg Moore is the one who asked that question. So the big props to him. Big respect to Greg Moore. And such an intelligent guy whenever you talk to him. Greg Moore put out a story today of how the Arizona Cardinals should stick with Colt McCoy. And there is no quarterback controversy in the desert because Colt McCoy is obviously the starter moving forward. I just don't think that's possible. I do not think if you stick with Colt McCoy the rest of the season, I do not think you are going to do as well as everybody thinks you are.
No, because Colt McCoy is limited. He is a backup quarterback. There is a reason why he has been a backup quarterback for the entirety of his career. There is also a reason that you are paying Kyler Murray what you're paying him, that you have surrounded Kyler Murray with weapons and with the coaching staff to work with him, not work with Colt McCoy. This team is built for Kyler. Like, Colt McCoy is terrific. Colt McCoy might be the best backup quarterback in football. He's top 5 at an absolute worst case scenario, because in a pinch like that, for him to come out and play the way he did, you're not getting that out of a lot of guys. But his job is being a backup quarterback. This is like the whole thing where people would start with Aaron Rodgers backups forever. Who was the one that went to
Matt Flynn?
Seattle? Matt Flynn. Like, people are trying to build up a good Colt McCoy performance and say that this needs to be like the starter moving forward. Like, Matt Flynn outplayed Aaron Rodgers, but you don't see Matt Flynn replacing Aaron Rodgers. And I understand the reason why Matt Flynn came in was a completely different reason. But the point is, you don't replace Kyler Murray for Colt McCoy when Kyler hasn't done anything worthy of being benched. Like, could he play better? Yes, he could definitely play better.
Yep.
He could also play a hell of a lot worse. He's not done anything worth being benched. Nothing. And maybe this is a very like politician answer, but like, being injured shouldn't lose you your starting job. And as an Arizona State fan, I can tell you that I've already had to deal with that this year. So, like, I don't even want to think about it. No, just yeah.
So
Kyler hasn't lost his job. Bottom
no,
line.
not at all. And I think you can just look at the price tag that the Cardinals plucked on him and understand that, whenever he's fully available and fully healthy, he's going to be the guy. When that is going to happen again, I'm not quite sure. They're really cautious with him. They're being very, very cautious, perhaps rightfully so, because I feel like more than anything, hamstring injuries are probably the injury you should absolutely take your time with and ensure
Yes.
that things are going
Dude, they
100%
flare
your way.
right back up.
Dude, I was telling my wife, like, you could play perfectly fine for 39 plays, but on play number 40 and you feel that pull, you're done. You are
Yeah.
done. And it pops out of nowhere. The thing with Colt McCoy starting the rest of the way, for shits and giggles, I don't care if YouTube puts the MA rating on this now. For shits and giggles,
Okay.
let's say Colt McCoy goes the rest of the way, right? He's a starter. NFL teams will get film on him. NFL teams will start to figure out Colt McCoy and the Cardinals offense, what the Cardinals don't do well with him, what they do well with him, what Colt McCoy does well, and what he doesn't do well either. The Cardinals already have a difficult time getting the very, very best out of Kyler Murray, the number one pick, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback who you just handed over $40 million annually to. They have such a hard time maximizing him on a weekly basis. What do you think is going to happen whenever teams get film on Colt McCoy and all of a sudden teams know exactly how to play him? Then it reverts right back around to, now it's up to the Cardinals to put Colt McCoy in a nice position to win in the long term, the grand scheme of things. Colt McCoy can't run like Kyler does.
I was
Colt
literally
McCoy
just about to say.
Colt McCoy can't throw a football on the run 60 yards downfield like Kyler Murray can. Colt McCoy played very, very well. He deserves all of the praise that he is getting. Like you said, Colt McCoy is the probably bare minimum top 5 backup quarterback in the league right now. The sedan you are renting is great, but when you get that Ferrari back, you drive the Ferrari.
Yep. Precisely that. Like, the Cardinals are not about to leave it, playing on your example, they're not going to leave this Ferrari in the garage when it's good to go. They're not trying to drive this around, especially at 4-6, trying to sell tickets, trying to sell people to watch these games. People aren't tuning in to watch Colt McCoy. They're tuning in to watch Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray wins football games. I know he doesn't do it a lot this year, but Kyler Murray wins football games.
I do want to touch on this. Does Kyler Murray try his hardest to play? There seems to be this aura around Kyler that he does not care.
He can't.
And he can't. He can't. For right or wrong, that's going to follow him for a while until he starts winning on like a perennial level. That's going to follow him for a very long time. Kyler Murray wants to win more than the fans want him to win. And I think people need to understand this. Kyler Murray is a competitor. Kyler Murray hates losing more than Arizona Cardinals fans love watching their team win. It's just him. It's just him. Everybody else in the locker room is the same way, but more in particular, Kyler Murray absolutely tries his hardest on every play. Absolutely wants to win football games. We're talking about a dude who barely lost before hitting the NFL. He could probably count the amount of losses he had on his hand. And the last few years before heading to the NFL. And he has helped build the Cardinals from the bottom of the barrel into what should be a borderline playoff team moving forward. There's elite talent everywhere. Part of the reason the Cardinals are in the current position they find themselves in right now is because of the play of Kyler Murray. No shade at Colt McCoy. If Kyler Murray says he's ready to go, you plug and play him. You plug and play him.
I don't have anything else to add to that, man. Yeah, plug and play. there was something I had on like the tip of my tongue, and I'm sure it'll come back to me in just a second. But yeah, no, Kyler's definitely starting. He's definitely the guy that's going to play. There's no question about it.
Now, I do want to touch on a comment here a little bit back. If Colt does win in Mexico City next Monday night, there will be a lot of talk.
Oh, of course.
Maybe rightfully so, because Colt McCoy steps in.
Care.
No, not at all. And I think the Cardinals are very smart enough to understand that, when Kyler Murray is free, available, and healthy, he's definitely the guy. Sidebar, Hard Knocks could not have picked a better season.
Yeah, holy cow, dude. Seriously.
Shout out to Hard Knocks.
You got a coach on the hot seat. You've got Kyler Murray, who by himself is must watch. Plus, he just got a new contract. You're making all sorts of trades, like Hollywood, Robbie Anderson. Like, this team is active. This has been a very good year for Hard Knocks to do an in-season and to go after the Cardinals. What is this? Oh, just a high ankle sprain for Cooper Kupp. Confirmed.
Good on him.
Yeah,
that really sucked to see him go down like that, and it sucks
some people
because
said Marco Wilson was dirty. Like,
it looked like Marco tripped. It looked like he tripped.
That's what I thought. I didn't think that was intentional, but I saw people were saying like he threw his body at him. I thought it was a bit like of an egregious statement. So
before we do head out, is Kyler Murray feeling a lot better? I watched him during pregame warmups, and he was just not dropping back fully. He was still throwing the ball, but he wasn't going through drop backs or progressions or anything like that. So I guess time will tell, especially with a hammy too. I mean, time's going to tell whether or not he's going to be good to go. Why can't K1 distribute the ball like Colt McCoy did yesterday? I think the Cardinals need to be better with Kyler and their play calling. I think if you put Kyler in that scenario and you give him the script that they give Colt McCoy, I think you're looking at the same outcome, if not better. I is exempt from excuses. I think Kyler Murray should play better moving forward, but I think a lot of what we saw and a big part of the success we saw from the Cardinals yesterday was indeed the game script and the play calling from Cliff Kingsbury. Also, 1,000 times, yes, Isaiah Simmons is the largest human being I have ever seen, just in terms of height. Size-wise, probably not. I've seen DeAndre Ayton in person. That dude's a fucking animal. But Isaiah Simmons is long boy. Can confirm 100%. Richie, we talked about a lot today. Do you have any closing thoughts before we head out?
No, I don't think so. Just know that this podcast and this website is definitely pro Kyler.
Pro Kyler, indeed. Look, if Colt McCoy's playing, we're obviously wanting Colt McCoy to do well. He's a really good dude. He plays at the quarterback position very, very well. If he goes and he wins the game in Mexico City against the San Francisco 49ers, I won't exactly be surprised. But we all know who's really running the show whenever fully healthy, and that is Kyler Murray. From our Arizona Cardinals news, analysis, insight, and more, head to allcardinals.com. Thank you guys so much for your time today. We know you can get Arizona Cardinals news, everything else like that, opinions, a lot of places. So thank you so much for taking the time to check us out here. I am Richie. I am not Richie Bradshaw. I'm Donnie. Druin.
No, I want to be Donnie.
All right. I'm Richie Bradshaw.
Donnie. I'm Donnie Druin.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for checking out the All Cardinals podcast, and we will see you goobers later this week.